What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 26 of my Total War Warhammer 3 Skulltaker Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, a couple of great battles, including the sort of proper debut for Khorne the Blood Hunter. It was great to see those Gorby's chariots in action and all of his fast movers in general, the Hounds of the Blood Hunt and all of the other named doggos who have been around since the very beginning of the campaign, as first they were in Skulltaker's army, and now they're in Khorne's, and of course, because of the armor gain that they've, gained over the course of the campaign, they've gotten a lot stronger than they started with. And very nice. In terms of what we got to do this time, there are a bunch of great battles to choose from, so we'll have to make our choice here. Skulltaker against two stacks led by Festus, who will be healing them up immensely on all of the crazy amounts of chosen and stuff that he has there. We also have the BEASTMEN army, which I'm really excited to try out at the Sacred Pools, and more likely than not, this is probably the one that we're going to do first. I just can't say no to trying out a new army. So we'll jump into this in a second. Before we do, however, please note that this is the last episode of the campaign on the main channel. The campaign will, of course, continue, at least until I get bored, on the second channel, which is Ruinous Archive, and for those who aren't familiar with it, I will link it down below. So proceed there for the next episodes of this campaign. Also, between the episodes, I noticed an unfortunate thing, or maybe not so much between the episodes, but when reloading, we can no longer reach Orion as we could at the end of last episode. This does unfortunately happen sometimes. There's something up with the movement range that when you reload the game, it drops a bunch of movement. I've seen this happen a bunch of times before, so I'm not surprised if I am a little bit perhaps annoyed. So, oh well, I assume that Orion will attempt to move towards Tori Vress here with his giant pile of flying units. Oddly enough, this feels like a Sisters of Twilight army rather than an Orion army, but oh well. Khorne will deal with them, I'm sure, and we'll probably have to loop back around to deal with Dulcet as well. Still kind of impressive that these guys are able to continue the upkeep on all of these armies. Anyway, let's start the battle off with this. I've been waiting for this since yesterday, so Hexus, you're going in, and you're gonna try out all those Beastmen. They're not super high ranked. Pyrrhic Victory casualties high. We do have, well, actually the Khorne Gors aren't high ranked, but the Minotaurs and such very much are. Ugh, their melee attack is kind of low, actually. 25 melee attack on a Khornate unit. It just doesn't feel right. But they are a halberd unit, so maybe that's at least in part why. And I think maybe there's something debuffing them. Perhaps a building or something. Anyway, we'll see how this works out for us. Not like that's going to be a big deal since we have the Minotaurs to dish out the damage. Go. Took the incoherent bellow right out of my mouth, I guess. Here we go at last. The Beastmen of Khorne are on the field. The Bloodbrood Behemoth, the various Minotaurs of Khorne, both with dual weapons and those big old great weapons. Damn, those are some big old axes. And what do we have? Twin axes, or I guess twin great axes maybe? The Demon Prince, probably strong enough to lift two of those at once. And of course, all of our regular little Khorne Gors. We'll see how effective they are. Their buffs, their sort of frenzy and other buffs give them 40 melee attack without any further buffs, and we'll see just what it gives them. Anyway, we're charging directly for the enemy army. We deployed Vanguard, deployed all of our all of our regular Khorne Gors on one flank of the enemy army. The idea is to rush as many of the enemy units on the flank and destroy said flank before the enemy army reacts. So, deployed all of our units over on the flank, and these guys, the 4 Khorne Gors, will maybe loop around depending on how the enemy reacts to all this. Of course, the Khorne Gors are going to be a little bit more fragile, and they're going to have to hold while the Minotaurs get there, but fortunately said Minotaurs are pretty darn quick and should get here sooner rather than later. There we go, the Demon Prince arrived first. Hex's Slaughter Call is his name, and, well, I would assume that slaughtering is his game, but you shouldn't assume. Anyway, Bloodbrood Behemoth comes in as well. Bloodbrood Behemoth is anti-large, and so should be quite effective against those Cold One Riders and whatever else it encounters. Should be a solid counter to the enemy beasties that we're liable to encounter here as well. And I guess this entire army, with all the massive amounts of anti-large that we have, between all the halberds on the Khorne Gors and the anti-large on the Great Weapon Minotaurs, will probably mean that the Lizards will have a pretty bad time against these armies. Anyway, Minotaurs have arrived to move in and help against the enemy Saurus, which we're holding against the Khorne Gors, and it looks like the units on this right flank have pretty much collapsed from that charge. Granted, most of the units that were charged were poor little skinks, and they were always going to have a bad time. The enemy does have air support in the form of Pterodon Riders with Fire Leech Bolas and regular Pterodon Riders. We're going to have to try to lift off our Demon Prince and attempt to chase them down, but unfortunately I don't believe he's fast enough to actually give chase to them. The enemy, for some reason, has deployed a single unit of Blessed Temple Guard over on this side, but that might be good for us as we will hit them in the back with one of our units of Khorne Gors. And then in the front as well with the various Minotaurs. Well, there we go, and hopefully we can rip them apart. Looks like Hexus has managed to catch at least a few of the flyers, or at least they're stuck fighting him for a bit, and we'll be able to drop a few of them out of the sky, though those Fire Leech Bolas continue raining down upon us, and we do have to be careful about it heavily damaging our Khorne Gors. Though the armor is now working for us, the Khorne Gors are up to 100 armor, and that's a pretty big difference from the, I think, 60 that they start with. And so hopefully won't be as vulnerable to the bolas. Anyway, Blessed Temple Guard are done for, and the enemy army, weirdly enough, has not really reacted. They seem to be sending occasional units at us, and I'm not entirely sure why. Sometimes the AI's sort of battle behavior breaks. It might be that it has so many units that it isn't willing to commit the entire force until it gets annoyed, as I like to say, and we need to kill off a few more units, but I guess we'll see. It is sending some of them, but not all of them. But, I mean, it's the AI. It can behave pretty weirdly sometimes. Bloodbrood Behemoth charges on in and smacks that Feral Stegodon. Once again, pretty good matchup for us, and with a little bit of help from those Khorne Gors, and the Feral Steg should go down without any problem. Once again, an absolutely massive amount of anti-large available to us, and the Feral Steg's already down by about a third of its HP. A unit of Unshielded Saurus attempts to hold the line here, but the Twin Axe Minotaurs overrun them fairly rapidly. Bloodbrood Behemoth seems to have forced the Feral Stegodon into Rampage, and it looks like we got a little bit of action of Minotaurs versus Kroxigors here. Unfortunately for them, the Kroxigors are not anti-large, and those great axes will rip them apart very, very quickly. Alright, well done to the Minotaurs. More Khorne Gors moving in, and we are going to maintain relatively blobby formation here, simply because our units are still rather untested. And we don't want any individual units of Khorne Gors isolated without Minotaur support, as once again we are expecting the Minotaurs to be dishing out the majority of the damage. And by the looks of it, they're doing quite well at it. Although I am interested to see how well the Khorne Gors do by the end of the battle. And, oh wow, did that... Why did that one Khorne Gor go flying? Did he jump in, or did he get smashed by, not in a good way, by the, by one of our Minotaurs? Hard to say. Anyway, always enjoyed watching Minotaurs fight. Pretty entertaining unit, generally speaking. Although I think I like the, new Blood Beasts animations a little bit more. But they do have similar sort of rolling attacks. And I guess Chaos Spawn have those as well. I guess a lot of the monstrous infantry do. Anyway, big old blob of defenders have moved in and surrounded some of our units of Khorne Gors and Minotaurs. There are still a lot of Saurus and Temple Guard left on the field, including blessed units. And they will inevitably be bringing at least some of our Minotaurs down. The enemy, funnily enough, does not have enough large units for us to take full advantage of our anti-large, but any of the dinos, Kroxigors, whatever, the bigger boys will be brought down with gusto. Bloodbrood Behemoth now facing off against an Ancient Stag with an Engine of the Gods. I don't think I've seen an Engine of the Gods activation so far as yet, but, well, it can obviously come in at some point. Our Demon Prince is chasing around the enemy Slan, who is just running away through blobs of units, and will probably continue to do so. Though, fortunately, unlike Skulltaker, the Demon Prince has enough mass to not care about any of these units. I really hope that SFO does something about Skulltaker's mass or gives him an explosion ability to move through units. It's just kind of annoying that basically a single infantry unit has enough mass to slow him down. I once again think it might be an issue with Juggernauts though, because his mass is technically just as much as like a Grail Knight or something along those lines, and those guys don't have nearly as much trouble. For those of you that remember the Lewin campaign, which was the most sort of engaged, I guess, the most popular in that campaign until Archaon came around. Lewin held the record for quite a while, but yeah. There was a bunch of battles where we used the Grail Knights to sort of run through blobs of enemies just over and over again, and they were just unstoppable. To a pretty hilarious degree, though granted, we've had a few very nice charges with our Blood Crushers in this particular battle. Anyway, speaking of battles, or in this particular campaign, but speaking of this battle, the battle continues, though I'd wager not for much longer. The bounce power shifts to about 75-ish% in our favor, and the enemy's Slan has fallen. I didn't bother watching it because, well, it was just too much chasing around. And frankly, the Slan wasn't going to be strong enough in melee to be able to avoid the Demon Prince. Demon Prince continues towering over the enemies Saurus and Skinks alike, and the big old blobs of units are starting to run out of lizards, and we're starting to have those numbers. Ancient Stegodon's down to half HP, and the Bloodbrood Behemoth has lost about a third, maybe 40% of its, but it looks like that's all that was needed, as all of a sudden the Saurus and the Skinks turn, shatter, and give the battle to us. Very, very nice. As we can see, we've got a lot of low HP units, or, well, I see a bunch of Minotaurs are down to like a third of their HP here. Khorne Gore's 30 to 40%. Yeah, and we certainly took damage. I wonder what that battle would have been like if the enemy had committed its entire army from the start, rather than waiting until like its entire flank was destroyed before committing. But, well, it can't have everything. A and B, I'm sure we'll have at least a few more nice battles for the Beastmen army to come. Alright, a fun time watching the Beastmen fight, if nothing else. Battle-wise, I'm a little bit disappointed that the Wardens of the Living Pools were just sitting there. Maybe this AI is broken and the battle AI of it sort of mimics the map AI, as obviously the Wardens of the Living Pools don't do anything on the main map, and neither did they really in the battle. I mean, they fought back once attacked, but still, it was a close victory. It was a lot of Saurus and stuff that we had to cut through, a lot of blessed units and all that, and we actually took a lot more damage than it appears here, obviously, because a lot of our units recovered due to not losing so many models. Decent work by a lot of the various Khorne Gores. I'm actually a little bit surprised at how well they did, considering how low their melee attacks were, but you gotta remember that we have various ways to buff melee attack on the battlefield as well. And I imagine that the Khorne Gores would have Frenzy as well, at least I think they do. Anyway, I guess we could just skulls the place. We're not looking to keep it, and we don't really care. If Rakarth wants to take it, he's free to. It's a red territory, and that hardly matters to us, or is of hardly of any use to us. And yes, they do have Frenzy, so that is a bonus 10 melee attack. 33, so yeah, it was lowered to 25 by a building or a right or something while we were there, so they actually have 43 when considering Frenzy, and there's probably other things. Primal Fury also gives them another 5, and then once again buffs on field, so looks good. Chaos Steed faction destroyed. Wardens of the Living Pools, they were kind of around here for absolute ages, but they're gone now, and they won't be coming back. Hexus, you can now, I guess, start traveling this way. I'm a little bit concerned that Wurzag's gonna start sailing armies to us, because there's a very decent likelihood that he has a bunch of extra armies that we can't see right now. We can see, what, 1? Yeah, okay, he's got way more armies than that, considering the number of territories he has, so gotta figure out where they are. In the meantime, though, let's move everybody else around, or whoever needs to move. Crimson Beasts and Gerald Black Raid. Okay, so that was this turn, right? Yes, okay, so we're hoping that these guys sally out and we get to fight them next turn. A Volnir Dahl. You and the Wrathful Feasters. It'd be nice to see you fight Grumbrindle, if he's still alive. No guarantee of that, but certainly a decent option. Let's start moving up here, rather than going to Storag Core. Maybe we'll... Who the heck do we send to Storag Core? Maybe one of these guys, once the drowned are gone. Let's give it a try. Move up here, Wrathful Feasters. I see King Sephrafan. Is this guy's last territory? Just out of curiosity. 2 more territories. Alright, so he's got another one. Is this one his as well? Dracula Spire is his as well. Alright. Very curious if Grumbrindle is alive. I'm hoping that Grumbrindle is alive, because he'll give us a great fight. Or potentially, if he is, you know, teched up decently. Let's see who's next. Oh, speaking of teched up decently. Well, actually, speaking of techs in general, but several things. There was a comment asking about the armaments tree, the other tech tree. Haven't touched it. We have not touched it at all. Don't have a single point in any of this, including Wrathful Slaughter, which is that Blade of Khorne ability that allows us to make AoE damage. But hey, we've been doing this without any fancy spells or damaging abilities like that, so I don't know. Feels more Khornate this way. And there are a lot of good upgrades in this tree for all of our units. I will readily admit that. It's just that I think that this has been more useful so far. A, and B, we haven't really needed the armaments. A bit of a shame that we can't steal tech, or at this point we would have gotten a lot more tech in many other campaigns, but you know, it's Khorne. Getting his followers to focus on something that isn't fighting is probably relatively difficult, so, you know, it does make sense as well. Anyway, you're besieging. We gotta try to chase down Tom Coates here. What if you'd be able to take on the territory? Well, you know what, let's give this a try. I also don't want these guys to suffer a lot of damage. But the Skull Harvester should be able to... whatever, it doesn't really matter. Alright, let's send you here. I imagine Tom Coates will run. Nope, he will not. He will just die. Well, isn't that lovely? Skulls for the Skull Throne indeed, my friend. And this is a skull pile, huh? What a big-looking skull pile, considering there's only 243 skulls there. I feel like there's more skulls in this image than there are, than it says there are. But anyway, ally mission successful, but it's for the War Host of the Apocalypse. So who cares? Though I do love Archaon. Faction destroyed the Dread Fleet. Fare thee well. They didn't want to be our vessels, so, you know. Alright, time to take the Shrine of Loek, and I mean, I guess we could raise it, but at the same time, once again, at this point. We have enough resources for it to not matter at all. Occupy. Got plenty of skulls, got plenty of money, and it just keeps on flowing. You can be upgraded. This is an armory. This is a cultist outpost. That's all fine. The rest of you all. Let's go directly for Elisele. We can march stance you close so that we can get an easy little auto-resolve there as well. Oh, even you could have probably been able to do it by yourself, which is just fine. But I'd rather keep these guys reasonably healthy so that they could still potentially sail out where they need to be. Or where they need to go, rather. I wonder if this guy's blocking the... blocking reinforcements or not. I guess we're about to find out. No, I think we're still okay. Auto-resolve, relatively little damage. For some reason, the Skull Harvesters and the Doom Feasters got more hurt, despite being reinforcements, than the Crimson Beasts here. But maybe that's just the Crimson Beasts being legends. Occupy. Alright, Southern Evrus secured, Fleshhound Handler, Rampagers standard, and we'll go for Monuments of Rage, and we'll go for Dark Bastion. Alright. I see you can move up a little bit further. But stay together in case Orion ignores Kuchar and goes for you. I don't expect that to happen, but why risk it, right? Alright, who's up next? Let's see what we have here. The Terra Masters are... oh, right, you are gonna hunt down Maddie Butters. Like so. And Armor of Silvered Steel, not great, frankly. for us, generally speaking, as a faction, mostly because, I mean, almost all of our heroes are heavily armored, and the cultists are, I think, the least armored, and they're still fairly heavily armored when you get what you need from them. By which I mean I get them on that War Shrine mount. Anyway, what do we have here at the Black Forests? Decent defenses. We could allow the Terror Masters to essentially die doing a close battle here. Oh. We have no siege attacker possibility. Also probably shouldn't let Billy Mansfeld recover, though. I guess we could besiege this, and if these guys want to sally out and destroy themselves, that's their business. Alright, let's do that. Skullhounds go here. We'll attack the Black Forest, and we'll have the Red Harvesters reinforce. In a second Pyrrhic victory, we'll see about that. We don't need to fight either of these battles, though it'll probably deplete both Blood Hosts, and we'll probably have to have a Volnir Dahl raise a few more. At least in these territories, because we won't be able to beat Delethanar with just what remains of these very damaged ones. We could recover a little bit by sacking the place, or we could just occupy it, because I'm too lazy to move twice. There we go. Don't need the kennels. We do continue needing the trophy racks, though. I think maybe we're up north enough so that we could potentially start building some defensive garrisons in some of these settlements, just in case they get taken. I see Bellicor is doing fairly decent work here. You don't want to become our vassal, do you, Bellicor? I don't know if that's such a bright idea, but anyway. In the meantime, Skulltaker, you get a big old fight for yourself. It looks like Festus likes us, but he won't like us for long. He's serving the wrong dark god, after all. Declare war. He has no friends, and frankly, pretty much all factions, with a few exceptions, hate us. This guy doesn't, but he will now. Call your allies to help. And here comes a big old fight for Skulltaker. And they will, of course, sally out, because of course they will. Look at all those Chosen and Chaos Knights, without even considering the fact that Festus has his own army and the ability to heal them quite nicely. Yeah. I also noticed that Karl Franz is near level 50, which is quite impressive. We're on turn 54, I want to say. And the fact that an AI has managed to get all the way up near to level 50, quite on the heels of Skulltaker. Does he have as much bonus XP as Skulltaker does? He's not fighting nearly as many battles. I guess the AI cheats are letting Karl Franz catch up, and there was a suggestion that we add his skull to the victory condition, which is a distinct possibility, but anyway, go.
I see you itching to kill. I will not hold you back. Go! Spill blood!
Oh, come on, Skulltaker. Did you really miss twice? It's alright. Not a big deal, considering every hit that does land is going to be a pretty solid one. And there we go. Enemies down by about 30%, and it's not like we don't have time, because the enemy reinforcements are going to take a bit of time to get here. I love the sort of close distance charge speed increase that the Blood Crushers, and I guess Skull Crushers as well, and get, as it does enable them to close the gap and charge into and heavily damage those Marauder horses, who are pretty much out, and the enemy Lord, by the looks of it, is about to follow suit as well. Anyway, the main host will arrive shortly, and it'll be a very nice matchup. Khorne versus Nurgle on this lovely frozen lake map, which will make the battle nice and visible. Ooh, it's Chaos on Ice, I guess. That's certainly some figure skating I'd love to see. Anyway, Chaos on Ice will happen as soon as this Lord dies. We'll await reinforcements. I'm going to speed this up, because frankly, I don't really care about the... Well, you know what? Let's see the execution, I guess. Hey, bloodletters, don't interfere. Oh, they're gonna bring him down before Skulltaker, yep. Alright, well, they took his arm and not his skull, and this guy seems pretty happy about it. Anyway, here we go. Festus is on the field with massive numbers of Chaos Knights, Chosen, and at least a few Chaos Warriors and Marauders, most likely. The latter probably being from Festus's army, as we saw that garrison being pretty darn crazily elite. Probably a lot better. The Chaos Fortresses will probably have a lot stronger garrisons than we do ourselves, so there is that. Anyway, we're going to take up formation as I'd rather fight on the ice, A, and B, I really felt that we don't want to be too close to the edge of the map, so draw the enemy out. It looks like the Rot Knights are going to head towards us, and Skulltaker is obviously not going to be afraid of them, and we'll move into the fray to try to stop their charge. It looks like he does get them to turn, but they are still moving. Gonna keep on charging them until hopefully the Bloodletters can close the distance and start hacking the Rot Knights apart. Enemy will call for reinforcements as Furies touch down. And we have seen the Furies do plenty of damage before, so we do have to be careful there. Here comes Festus and his exalted heroes, Knights Chosen, etc. And the battle is well and truly begun. A demon on demon over here as Nurglings are facing off together with some doggos, some Hounds of Pestilence or Decay. I never remember which ones are Beastmen and which ones are Chaos. Facing off against their exalted Bloodletters with our regular basic Bloodletters, the ones that we still have in this army, acting as a reserve. Furies are obviously melting away, and the Chaos Knights have joined the fray as well. Probably going to take some time to hack through those guys with the 60 melee defense that they have and the healing elixir on them, healing them up. But we've seen our Bloodletters do great work. Enemy Exalted Hero has been having a pretty bad time against our Blood Reaper and the Uzul's Executioners, though here a Chaos Knight set has very nicely charged into the middle of a unit of Bloodletters by charging them in the flank and then essentially breaking apart their formation. Unfortunately for the enemy, we could do the same thing and charge right into the flanks of that unit of Chaos Knights with our Bloodletters, or our Blood Crushers rather. Blood Crushers weirdly look kind of small compared to the Chaos Knights, but that doesn't mean they are not able to obliterate them, as the Chaos Knights lose their HP and quickly most of their lives. Chosen are facing off against the piles of Bloodletters here, though I should have probably said piles of Chosen, because it's looking like the Bloodletters are outnumbered. Fortunately, all that armor piercing on their great weapons is working out well for them, and especially against the sword and board variant of Chosen, as they just won't have the armor piercing necessary. And since our Bloodletters are up to 68 armor, it's gonna need at least some of it. Still not as much armor as we'd like, obviously. The enemy heavily out-armors us and outnumbers us, but they don't out-damage us, I'd wager. In fact, out of curiosity, 55 weapon strength on our guys, and let's see, where's the unit of Chosen with great weapons? 41 weapon strength. Yeah. 31 armor piercing and 10 base armor. All right, I think damage-wise we've got this covered. It's gonna be a matter of who can outlast who. Will we outdamage the enemy before their numbers and their healing and whatnot begins to tell? Speaking of healing, however, Skulltaker has found Festus in the midst of the battle, and it looks like after a few blows, Festus is going to rush through his piles of Chosen to get the heck out of there. The enemy has failed to take the hill where our 3 units of Exalted Bloodletters and regular Bloodletters are fighting, and the Blood Crushers have by the looks of it chased down what units they could and are now contributing to the fight in melee. Or contributing to the melee. Damn, that's a lot of air on a Chosen. Not too bad. Tactically, not too much to say about this fight. 3 sort of individual skirmishes are happening at the same time, and by the looks of it, we are getting the best of the enemy on every side. Looks like the units that were holding the hill have managed to destroy all of those enemies that attempted to attack them, and are now heading down to surround those units that made up the enemy's main line. Festus, I believe, is shattered and down to a sliver of HP, and as soon as Festus shatters, by the looks of it, the rest of his army decides that it's just not going to happen. Beautiful. It looks like all that healing of his just didn't work out. Obviously, it would probably have worked better if he had more monstrous units in his army, which I'm sure he did at some point before Karl Franz clearly defeated him. Or maybe Drika, by the looks of the fact that she has a bunch of armies around the Brass Keep. Anyway, there we go with that. Festus's army is destroyed, and so is his faction. Should have followed Khorne instead, my friend. Not that I expect Khorne would have taken you. Festus doesn't seem like like a particularly strong fighter in terms of his melee attack being only at 36. I mean, that's a debuff, mind you, but it's still very, very low for a lord. Anyway. Oh, not bad. 47,000 favor for that, though a mere 675 skulls. I guess those trophy racks are really starting to pay off. And I guess we can get more skulls via this. Not that either one really matters. Healing doesn't matter because our army heals to full after every fight. Reap captives doesn't matter because skulls, and offers tribute doesn't matter and because of money. But there isn't another option that offers bonus XP or something to these guys, but I mean, it also wouldn't matter, but at least the XP could have then be transferred via all of our high-level heroes to other lords and heroes. Anyway, nice fight. The enemy got obliterated. Loved seeing chaos on ice, personally. And as for the winners of the day, 236, yeah. In terms of damage at 230 or 23,672 and nearly 3,200 damage delta's gold value, Zul's Executioners, living up to their name. And then in second place, the Bloodfire Slaughterers. Well done to the both of you. Damn, also 20,000 damage and 188 kills on the Blood Reapers. I've been quite impressed with the Blood Reapers as heroes. They seem to be very, very solid heroes. They have the Blood Shrines, or Blood Thrones, I guess as they call them, so that they power up everybody around them. They are very fast. They mince infantry clearly better than most of our units. They can carry items, obviously, because they're heroes, but they can also deal significant damage to enemy single entities once they're high level and built up. So, very nice indeed. Anyway, Reap Captives, Festus will be destroyed shortly. Too bad we don't have another lord here to... yeah, there's that casualty punishment rate. Not that it serves any more purpose for Skulltaker, but the vigor loss reduction, I guess. Sounds like we have perfect vigor on all of our on all of our various bloodletters. Crown of Command, we had 1 billion of those. 154,000 for sacking it. Damn, it's good money, but I guess we'll keep it. It's a little bit unfortunate because we'll lose our movement range. I was curious if he would become our vassal at this point. Not that I was going to do that. We could just raise or sack the place and still maintain our movement. Do we really need the dies? Probably not. Do we really need the fortress? I mean, if we potentially want to keep vision of the area and... I mean, and then again, we'd have to maintain another army there, especially if we were to teleport away, as Karl Franz will probably come at this place. You know what, I'll just raise it. I don't think I care enough. Auto-resolve. I mean, I know that it's just a decent sort of location to hold on to, but... Any point in recruiting? Damn, 73,000 skulls. It's a lot of skulls, you gotta admit. Yeah, it's good. Take the skulls. There we go. And, oh! You still have travel to enemy lord here. Now we could move to Adagig and then bounce down through Talabayam. I was thinking about moving towards Karl Franz here, because level 43, and just from what we can see of his army, steam tanks, demigryph knights, he's got a heck of an elite force. Clearly, on the Ironsides, and who knows, might be able to give a nice fight for a Skulltaker. We could do it either by teleportation, although at 462 Champions Essence, because reasons. That would take a lot of Champions Essence to teleport, wouldn't it? Tempting. Very tempting. Anyway, unfortunately we're out of time. I'm going to have to leave that decision until next time, whether we bounce downwards towards Karl Franz or whether we simply teleport to him. We'll have to decide next time. And yeah, that's about it. Next time, more Skulltaker, more fun Khorne stuff. All glory to the algorithm. Next episode on the other channel. Thanks for watching.